GM TBIs don't get enough attention. Today we're tearing the throttle body injection off of my 1990 Chevy Suburban, and this will apply to anything GM from like 1987 on up to the mid to late 90s. So let's get into it. What we're going to be doing is getting our throttle body off. And in order to do that, there's a feed and a return line for your fuel back here, which is 5/8 and 3/4, I believe. 13 mil bolts, there's 3 of them holding it onto the intake. You've got 2 injectors, those will just pop off, be careful, that's stupid brittle. And then these wires will slide out here. You've got some vacuum lines, 1, 2, 3, and you've got a couple of electrical connections. One is your TPS over here. Don't break it, Jason just broke it. So that's that one. And then we've got this one over here, not sure what it is, but that one will come apart. Once you've got your electrical and your vacuum and your fuel lines, this thing just pops off with the 3 bolts there. So let's see if we can get this off without breaking anything any further than we already have. And for reference, not sure if it matters, but in this particular case, we're going to pay attention. The blue and red is on the passenger side, so if we can remember that for when we put this thing back together. I'm going to grab a screwdriver and pry that out so I'm not pulling on the wires. Because this thing, of course, I've said it 100 times, this truck is 35 years old. And plastics and wires just don't want to come out like they're supposed to. See, like that. That little plastic piece that goes in there, brittle and is broke. So we'll save that. We might be able to make it work again. So we got that, we got that. Got a couple of clips over here, which is your throttle cable, as well as your TV cable, your throttle valve for your 700R4. If you had a newer Suburban, like the 91s, I believe that's the first year for the 4L60s. I'll just clip those clips back on here. You guys probably can't see because that brake is in the way. And now we can go in and get our fuel lines loosened up. Now, if you're like me and you had the vehicle running recently, there's going to be a little bit of pressure in here. So you're going to want to be careful when you go to pull these lines off that it doesn't spray on you. I think this might just be the return line on this side, but I'm not sure. We'll find out here in a second. I'll start spraying fuel everywhere. Very minimal. Now be careful too, because I think there's probably a couple of little O-rings or something on the end of those lines. So when you pull that off, just look for them. There's going to be something there. Now for our vacuum lines, and again, 35-year-old rubber. Be careful you don't wreck this stuff. All right, now we should be able to take this thing off here. Now, if I told you a second ago that these things were 13 millimeter, I think I'm right. This back one wasn't even tight. Like I went to go put it on there and do this with it, and it just started turning. Having said that, I don't think they're on there with a lot of torque anyway. At least it's not broken. So now, I think this thing should just come up. Oh, we got one more vacuum line back here. And there we go. Okay, so what we have here is a throttle body out of a 1990 GMC Suburban with a 350. I think it's the same one for a 454, and the same throttle body for a lot of late 80s and early 90s to mid 90s GM throttle body vehicles. I've got a rebuild kit here from Napa. It's part number 2-1752. And we've got two new injectors, part number 15-905. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to tear this apart, get it cleaned up, and replace all the necessary gaskets, O-rings. We'll get all that stuff replaced with the new injectors so that this thing is back to normal operating condition. So the first thing you want to do is get these adapters out of the way because they will not go up through the plate. And they've got a couple of little nylon rings on there, so make sure you replace those. They are in the kit. This is a bunch of Torx screws that hold these things together. I believe it's a T20. So we're going to take this air breather thing out. There are a couple of different lengths and size heads on these. They're all T20s, but when you take these three out for this base plate, they're going to be a little bit bigger than the rest of them. So now this should just pop off here, and you will notice that there's a gasket here. This one's in good shape, but we are going to be replacing it. Anytime you're taking these things apart, do not throw away your gaskets. Sometimes what happens is if you get the wrong kit, it may not have the gasket you need. You got to reuse the old one. So don't throw them away just yet. As it sits right now, other than these two electrical pieces, everything else in here is just simply mechanical. We can take this over the parts washer and clean that up. I'm going to take these sensors off here first before I do that. But a bulk of what we're working with today is right here. So let's dive into those. We flip this upside down. You can see there is your injector sprayers, and they are going to be held in there by this piece here, which actually you've got to take all of these out. There's 2, 4, 6, 8 all together. Let's get that off. Again, it's a good idea to make note of where the screws come out because some of these are different lengths. For example, the 4 that are holding in the actual injectors themselves are only that long, but you've got the ones up here on the top that go through a little bit more metal. They're a little bit longer. And with a little bit of a tap, this section should separate fairly easily. So again, we pull this apart, you'll be able to see where the seals are. There's one right here, which is a small one all by its little lonesome. And then there's the one here that's actually separating the big plate, which is quite crumbly. Got a couple of rubber isolators for your injectors. And now that we've got that plate out, these injectors, you can try just pushing right from the bottom here. And they should just pop right out. Note that there is an O-ring here at the top as well as one at the bottom and a filter. And the O-ring stayed in that one. But I'm going to put it back just for reference so we know where our new ones go. And then we've got an O-ring down at the bottom as well as there's a filter, plastic one right in there. When these come out, they are keyed. There is a little dowel right here, and when they go in, they are going to line up with the dowel at the bottom. So when they go in, there is kind of only one way that they go, like so, and you'll know that by your tabs being horizontal with each other for the electrical plug-in. So now we've got this gasket here that we can peel off. And it is going to come off in several pieces. There's also an O-ring in here. In here, I believe, is what your fuel pressure regulator. So it is spring-loaded. When you go to take these 4 screws out, that's going to want to pop out at you. So make sure you either clamp it with a pair of, C-clamps to get those bolts out of there, and then slowly loosen it off, or put it in the vise and do the same thing. We're going to use a C-clamp. And here it reveals the diaphragm. And there's a new one of these in the kit. So now that we've got all of our hard parts taken apart, we're going to take it over to the parts washer, clean everything up, and then we'll come right back here and we'll start reassembly. All right, so we got all of our parts cleaned up. We got the top hat here that goes to this piece. Everything all cleaned up really good. This one here is the main throttle body. Got the gaskets all scraped off on the bottom of it. Somewhere along the line, I did manage to lose one of these clips here that holds on either the TV cable or the cruise control cable, but I think we got a couple of those kicking around here somewhere. So the first thing we're going to put together is this regulator. This is keyed to only go a certain way, as is this piece here. The reason for that is, I'll show you before I put it together, is that this regulator is notched out for this piece here, and over here it's got like a little tab. So when this goes together, you're going to make sure that they are both not notched out in the proper way. So let's get this together. So this valve itself goes in there only one way, and that's the flat side up, and it's got 2 little locator tabs or dowels, so to speak, that hold it in there. Then your spring is going to go on here, and then you've got to figure out a way to get this on there and screw everything in at the same time and not have this bounce back in your face. So again, this is doweled, so when that goes on there and this sits back into place, is you've got these 2 screws that will help you to get these in. So what you're going to do is you're going to put one down here and just get it started. And then you're going to take the second one on the other side, and you're going to do the same thing. And once you've got that started, this acts as your third hand to help guide things in. Those holes will go all the way through, but it's also a guide, and you don't want that to be flopped up. So now we can take this and poke it into place. And with these as our guide, we can start with the other 4 small ones, or you can do what we did in reverse and put that C-clamp back on. We're going to try it the way it was intended, and that's getting started this way. And once those 2 get started, it's pretty much clear sailing. Now, one thing I will tell you, putting these things back together into aluminum requires very, very, very little torque to tighten those up. I bet you it's less than 10 foot-pounds. I'm not even sure how to measure it in inch-pounds, but all I know is that it doesn't take a lot. So when you're screwing these things, just Just snug them in there. You'll be fine. And you'll know that because when you took them apart, you'll have noted that they came out really easy. So that's in there. We're just going to give it like a little snug. And go around it a couple of times. You'll be fine. So now that we've got this put back together, we're going to set it aside just for a minute. We're going to come back to the main part that holds the injectors. There is a gasket in here. We're going to try and get that out. And we are going to put our new injectors in, but before we do that, we've got to make sure that we have the O-rings in place. And this one actually came with the new screens, so we're not going to use the screens that came in the kit. We're going to keep these ones in here. So now we need to get our two new O-rings, which are these ones here, and we are going to grease those up a bit. Remember what I said before? Those are keyed. There's a little dowel in there, so that's going to fit right down in there, like so. Now remember when these came out, it took a little bit of pressure to get them to come out. It's going to take a little bit of pressure to get those O-rings seated down in there. So maybe a neat little trick is before you seat these down into place, take a pick and take the back side, the rounded, and get that O-ring pushed down in there, and then when you go to lock that into place, you'll hear it snap. Both of these did that. Just use the back side of a right angle pick. Do not use the sharp side. Don't forget, we've got a gasket over here on the regulator, so that's got to go back down there. Make sure that you have cleaned that up really well. And then we can put our gasket for our injectors down here, and then with our foam gasket here for the regulator, everything can go right back in like so. And that should seal right up. Don't forget, there's only 5 of these short screws that we took out. So those will go in here, 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 and here. And the 3 long ones that we took out go into here, here, and here. Now all right, we've got that one all put back together. Now we can come back to this, and we've got a gasket around, I believe, is our idle air control valve, and we'll get that scraped off and get the new one put on it. We got that cleaned up. We got the new gasket, and that will go in there and get tightened up with our 1 1/4 inch. Then we take our throttle position sensor, put that back in place. So now we're going to take our actual throttle body spacer or gasket, and again, this only goes in here one way. When you go to put that on, it's not going to fit quite right. Flip it over, and it should just kind of slop in there, no problem. This is where this piece kind of goes back into place, so you want to be careful and make sure that that goes on there perfectly, and then that's where our bigger headed Torx screws go in. All right, now that we got those done, we can come to the back side here, and remember the 2 valves, couplers we took out of there. There's 2 different sizes. The big one goes over here, small one goes over here. There are 2 different size little plastic gaskets. There's a clear one that goes on this side, and there's a white one that goes on this side, and they will just snap off there. New one snaps right on. Same thing with this one. Replace that O-ring with the new one. Again, just snaps into place. And we tighten those up with our 3/4. It does come with a new O-ring for your air breather. We're going to put that on last because we've got that electrical connection that's got to kind of slide back in there. And then we've got a new gasket for the intake. So it's pretty basic. There's not as much to this as there is a carburetor, and everything went together quite well. You know, a little bit of a hassle getting these O-rings in here. The kit does come with a couple of, they call them backup gaskets. These are just brass. But with the O-ring seated in there nice, like the little trick I taught you with the back of the pick, and the gasket down there, I don't think we're going to have any problems. Don't forget to put your little rubber stoppers in here for your connectors. Let's go put this back in the vehicle, see if she's going to run. All right. So we've got our idle air control valve plugged in. Fuel lines are tight. TPS is tight. 3 vacuum lines in the front. We pushed our wires back in along with the broken piece so it all kind of seals up. We've got our throttle valve cable to our transmission. We've got our throttle body or our throttle cable to our gas pedal. Our cruise control, like I said, I lost that little clip. I got to find one of those. That's got to go on there or else we're not going to have any cruise. I think everything's all buttoned up here. Injectors are plugged in. Let's go turn the key, see if this thing starts. Everything's back together. It's running fine. There's no leaks for the fuel. And the spray for the injectors seems to be fine. So we're going to call this one a win. And of course, no, I'm kidding. We forgot to put our stud back in for our air breather. There. Don't forget your wing nut. So if you found this video entertaining, please hit that like button. Make sure you subscribe to Olde Carr Guy. We've got a lot of things that we're doing to this old Chevy Suburban that you may be interested in. There is a whole playlist right over here if you want to check that out. Stay focused on the windshield, not the rearview mirror. I love you guys. God bless. We'll see you in the next video.